It's finally time. It's finally time for a new ban list. Oh, there are so many decks I want to get hit. Like Takemikazuchi, MirageGaogamon. Oh, and of course I'm stuck for Purple Hybrid too. Oh man, I can't wait to see how it shakes up the meta. They did it. They fucking did it. They fucking did it. Digimon is saved. Digimon is saved. Digimon is saved. Kinda. Hello everyone, my name is Ben, hitting you again with a new video today. I hope you guys are as excited as I am, because it's finally time for Bandai to bless us with a brand new ban list. Woo! Hallelujah! I'm pretty sure I'm not alone when I say that we've all been practically begging for a brand new restriction list to come out. And boy, let me tell you that this list is kind of a banger. Kind of. Maybe. And of course, seeing as the new ban list is out, I'm sure you all know what that means. It's time for a Ben ban list review. And so, without further ado, let's go and take a look at what they hit. Alright, we're already starting with a banger of a hit. This is not your typical restriction that Bandai does with their ban list, because this BT2 mat is straight up banned. Fun fact, this second card ever in the Digimon CCG to be flat out banned. Now, albeit this card is extremely old, and for those of you who haven't been keeping up with the metagame, I'm sure you guys are all pretty confused as to why this card in particular would be flat out banned. So, let's take a look why. You see, one of the problematic decks in the Digimon CCG pre-ban list was Purple Hybrid. That deck's entire strategy relied on you using the BT18 Duskamon to be able to Digivolve into the BT18 Velgamon mid-attack. And then, at the end of the attack, you'll be able to use the Velgamon's ability to be able to delete himself and delete all of your opponent's Digimon of the lowest level. Super strong removal, especially for a level 4. This then in turn triggers the Duskumon's inheritable effect to be able to play any Tamer from your trash with a play cost of 4 or less for free. Which, if you take a closer look at the recently banned Mat Ishida, if you do play this out, you'll be able to trigger this card's on play to be able to recover any purple Digimon or purple option from your trash back into your hand. Which, if you get the BT18 Duskamon back, you're set up to do the combo all over again, thus creating the Velgar Loop. This essentially created a deck with near infinite aggression, well, so long as your memory allowed it. With which, if you manage to get multiple Velgar Loops off in a single turn, you could then translate those Mat Ishida on plays into getting something like a Jack Raid, to be able to extend your memory even further, prolonging the Velgar Loop combo. Or any other purple Digimon for that matter from your trash in order to help you try and close out the game, like the BT11 Mervamon for example. Now, admittedly, I also wanted to get Purple Hybrid hit in some way, shape, or form, and originally I actually thought that the BT18 Velgamon was the more correct hit, since it is what enabled the entire loop in the first place, while also giving Purple Hybrid a secondary strategy to mill the opponent out, further filling your trash for more future plays, as well as potentially just winning by deck out, which is definitely something I have never been a fan of. But the thing is, if you do so happen to manage to get that BT18 Velgamon in the trash, despite it being at one copy, it would be as if it was never limited in the first place, considering they can always recycle it from trash from the BT18 Dustmon's effect. And at the end of the day, there would have been no hit to Purple Hybrid at all. And honestly, the same logic could be said about the Mat Ishida too, hence why it actually does make perfect sense to fully ban it. Really good hit, Bandai. A 10 out of 10. Ooh, now this makes me so happy. Thank you, Bandai, for taking my advice and continuing to adapt choice restrictions into your ban lists. You've actually only ever seen it once in the unintended interaction between the Sayo and Ko and the Promo Zubamon, so I was kind of worried that it was only going to be a one-time thing. Though, that being said, I'm actually rather indifferent about this one. The decks that have used the Mother Shoto combo never really did make a big splash in the competitive scene. But, that being said, I won't deny that it is still a really good idea to choice restrict them, especially for the local scene. That's because the Shoto Cosma has the effect at the end of turn by suspending him, we'll be able to give any of our Digimon blocker, which in this case could then be given to the Mother D-Reaper, who is completely unaffected by all of our opponent's effects, while also sitting at a whopping 15,000 DP. Seeing that it did end up getting choice restricted, it is clear that it is an interaction that Bandai did not want for this game. Sure, the deck itself kinda sucked, or at least in my opinion it did, but it really did act as a sort of gatekeeper for a lot of lower tier decks from even being remotely playable. But I do think it goes without saying that the decks that did lose to Mother Shoto weren't ever getting a chance to play the game when versus against them, which I can understand and may not be the kind of deck that Bandai wants to have around. Overall, I give the hit a 7 out of 10. Definitely didn't really care about it before, but I am definitely glad to see that it's gone. bangers. Absolute bangers. Similar to my previous banlist review on Hammerspark, it really is one of those hits that makes you wonder, man, why weren't these hit sooner? Zero cost memory options always led to sudden burst turns that your opponent physically could not prepare for, which is pretty bullshit. By hitting these zero cost memory options to 1, you outright restrict how explosive a turn can be, as well as limit how often they can do it per game. My only complaint is that they also didn't hit other cards like Gravity Crush too. But I can understand it considering that Magna X and Purple Hybrid respectively were the only 2 decks that were kind of abusing these 2 respective options. But, at least in my opinion, all those memory gaining burst options should all be restricted to 1. An 8 out of 10 for me. Yes! Yes! Woo! Alright, let's go! MirageGaogamon hit to 1, baby! Woo! He's gone! The dog is dead! Although, weirdly enough, it's almost too little, too late. Now, I know for a fact that I might be a little controversial when I say this, but to be honest, it was starting to look like that Pure Mirage was already making its way out of the format entirely. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad he got hit. But at least maybe it's because of my experience, I can't help but feel that there are actually way more stronger decks than Mirage now. I mean, hell, even the winning list that just won the Digimon World Championship only ran MirageGaogamon at 1 copy. So, in a sense, the winning list was actually untouched. In the end, I know for a fact that I'm probably only looking at it this way because of hindsight. But, needless to say, I am more than happy that I don't have to deal with a dumb dog preemptively ending my turn every time I drew a card by a card effect. A 9 out of 10. So long, Mirage. You won't be missed. Holy shit. Yes! 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 Fuck you! Take that, you dumb dog! No one loved you! After experiencing multiple formats all the way into today of BT20, I can confidently say since the release of BT17, there was no deck that I hated more than FenriLoogamon Take Mikazuchi. You see, the one thing that I really love about the Digimon TCG is in fact the memory gauge system. More often than not, it feels like that all the moves that you make, as well as how you choose to spend your memory, all add up towards your victory. So you really do get rewarded for planning ahead, as well as understanding how much memory is too much memory to give to your opponent. But you see, the problem with Take Mikazuchi is that it often takes the memory gauge and throws it in a dumpster fire. You see, as long as they had the correct sequence of cards in their hand, it didn't matter how much memory they were spending in their turn. They were killing you. Now, originally people were wanting to hit the BT14 Balmon egg before the ban list was revealed, as it is the card that allows them to chain Evo all the way up into their level 7, despite having the memory gauge being passed way over to the opponent's side. If I were to be completely honest, I was actually so scared that Bandai would actually listen to them. You see, I always had the thought that hitting the Balmon is a genuine trap. The problem wasn't their ability to continuously Evo all the way up into their level 7 despite having the memory gauge passed over. It was the dumb level 7 that allowed them to refund any amount of memory they spent that turn. This is what I mean when I say that the deck was essentially allowed to just ignore the memory gauge system. Because to put in perspective, in BT14, the Balmon wasn't that much of a problem, as you could do your big chain of evolving all the way up into your level 6 as soon as turn 2 or 3, but then you have to live with the repercussions of giving your opponent a million memory. Not to mention, if the BT14 Balmon was hit, Dark Animals has plenty of ways to make up for it. Whether it be like the Skull Beluchimon, or even a Scrambles enough to get the full combo off, without even needing the BT14 Balmon. And thus, I always believe that the correct way to hit the deck was to either hit the level 7, the level 6, or the level 5 respectively. Or heck, even some combination of the 3. I want this deck dead. And to be honest, I am super happy they ended up choosing with the level 6, if they could only choose one. I can understand not wanting to hit the level 7 considering it is a secret rare, but hitting level 6 is the correct one between the level 5 and 6 respectively. Because that was the entire reason that after the FenriLoogamon completed their big combo, they would be able to keep turn and then fire you into the sun. Now that it's restricted to 1, more often than not, after they complete their whole big wombo combo, they'll be forced to end their turn. And now we actually get a chance to interact on the clapback. Phenomenal hit. 100 out of 10, Bandai. I hope this deck dies in a fire. Ooh, now this is actually an interesting hit, but nonetheless, I do agree with it. Now, for those of you who must be confused, as Sakuyamon as a deck never really was meta relevant, if at all, The Kuzuha itself at multiple copies is actually an enabler of what is now known as Tau Loop. This deck focused entirely on having a draw engine as its low end, so that they could eventually have the pieces necessary to just hard play a Taumon Ace, which would then use its effect to then Digivolve into the Kuzuhamon, which could then play the Taumon Ace back, which then you could Digivolve into another Kuzuhamon, and then the loop just keeps going until you end on the board with a bajillion level 6s. Level 6s, mind you, that came out of absolutely nowhere, which all could Digivolve into something like a Ruin mode, to lock your opponent out of the game, especially in the early turns. Honestly, I think hitting the Taumon Ace to 1 would have probably been the better hit, considering that it doesn't really affect the Sakuyamon strategy all too much, at least from my knowledge. But I am okay with hitting the Kuzuhamon, as it is still a very strong enabler for the Taumon loop itself. What we're learning from this list is that Bandai really hates loops, to which I absolutely agree. Very much props to them for trying to correct a design oversight. An 8 out of 10 for me. Hopefully this is enough to deter them. Ah, and speaking of loops, look at what we have here. These cards, in my opinion, were always ripe for the breaking. And since the release of BT17, I can definitely say that they have become a lot more broken now. Essentially, the core gameplay loop of these pure ancient hybrid decks is to use the promo Warps to be able to Digivolve into the BT17 Ancient Greymon or the BT17 Ancient Garurumon respectively, using their wind Digivolving effects to do solid removal as well as doing a bunch of damage. And as soon as the turn over, the promo's effects of being able to delete themselves will then be able to trigger the BT17 Ancient Greymon and the BT17 Ancient Garurumons on deletion effects, getting back a hybrid into their hand, as well as playing any tamer from their hand or trash for free. That effect by itself is already super strong, and seeing it is able to get any hybrid back from your trash as well, you could actually just get that promo hybrid back to your hand, and then you're already set up to do the combo all over again. And God forbid they set up something like an Analog Youth. Being able to abuse the fact that your level 6 with sources is dying by deletion. Being able to gain another memory and then hatch an egg in your breeding area, which means you get to essentially keep turn, and then you get to set up your breeding area to have the loop start all over again on the next turn. Essentially, these promos enable a super aggro hit and run type strategy, which, while I can accept them if they exist, I still have to say that they are super annoying to play against. And what makes it frustrating is that the promo hybrids make it way too easy to set up. They actually already rectified it by releasing a brand new BT17 Agunimon and Lobomon respectively that also are able to Digivolve into their BT17 ancient counterparts. But the difference is, in order to get that combo and effectively get that hit and run strategy off, for these BT17 Agunimon and Lobomon, you would have to Digivolve into the BT17 Burning Greymon or Kendo Garurumon respectively first, essentially making this at the very minimum a 2-card combo, whereas the promo hybrids are just a 1-card combo. And if you wanted to Digivolve the promo Agunimon or the promo Lobomon, those only cost 2 memory on top of regular Digimon, whereas the Burning Greymon or Kendo Garurumon cost 3 memory, which already makes them way less memory efficient. Great hit all around. A 9 out of 10. Only reason it's not a 10 is because I definitely wanted another card that's part of the loop on this list as well. Anyway. Yep. This was a miss. I understand they wanted to hit blue-green Imperialdramon. I mean, considering that it is a deck that's all the way back from BT17 and it still came second place in Worlds, it kind of makes sense that they want to hit it in some way, shape, or form. And hitting the Sigma does make it so that they have a lot less draw power, considering that the inheritable effect is not a once per turn. And of course, its main effect to be able to be played for 3 costs instead of 4 is very good when paired with something like the BT12 XVmon in order to help keep turn and keep a very strong memory efficient play, while also drawing a bajillion cards in the process. The problem though, this isn't nearly enough to reasonably hit the deck. Now, admittedly, a lot of people have been rather outspoken in wanting the BT16 Davis and Ken to be hit. I personally am not a huge fan of that, as it outright kills the deck. I'm not really for that, unless the deck overstayed its welcome, like MirageGaogamon. That said, if you really wanted to lower the deck speed, I personally would have hit the starter deck Stingmon as well as the BT12 XVmon and even the BT12 Stingmon too, to be able to gain a memory when you DNA Digivolve, as those are the primary level 4s that boost the deck memory efficiency tenfold. So hitting just the Stingmon alone is not enough to make an impact, at least in my opinion. I mean, hey, maybe I'm wrong? God, I hope so. But you shall see in the coming format. As for my rating, a 4 out of 10. Now, if you have been following along, you would notice that I've been rather positive on all the hits in the ban list so far. That's because that I believe that everything on this ban list is in fact genuinely warranted. That being said, there are cards that I wish that were on this ban list as well. Number 1, Analog Youth. This card has overstayed his welcome. Every single time there's a deck out there that really wants to abuse their trash being filled up rather quickly, or have repeatedly ways of being able to destroy their own level 5 or higher Digimon, at the end of turn, you'll be able to use something like the Analog U to fill up the trash rather quickly, or being able to somehow keep turn at the end of turn to further continue more shenanigans. I am sick and tired of this card, and I think it definitely has overstayed its welcome. Please hit it at some point, Bandai. Followed by that, Ko and Sayo. I mean, heck, Galaxy literally just won Worlds, and this deck is still untouched. Literally nothing on the ban list touches it. Except maybe you can't play BT11 MirageGaogamon anymore, but the deck only played one MirageGaogamon anyways. Ko and Sayo is definitely a card that I can say that was probably a design oversight. Considering the fact that it's able to Digivolve into any level 6 or higher, in my opinion, is pretty bullshit. In my opinion, I would have hit this card to 1 so it's much less consistent, or at the very least happen far less. But if you didn't want to kill the Galaxy engine entirely, you could have in fact eroded it to make it so that it can only Digivolve into Nightclaw or Light Fang respectively. Because being able to Digivolve into any level 6 or level 7 in the game is, in my opinion, too strong. Especially since it's free. And up next we have the Dober engine. How in the heck is this thing still alive? This is like the one purple core that any purple deck can use and abuses 4 protoforms. I am not a fan of this engine, ever. Especially with something like the Cerberus X. Being able to play out any level 3 from your trash for free, meaning you get to recycle things like floodgates, as well as having a generic inheritable effect of being able to unsuspend to any level 6 in the future. If you wanted to hit the engine, in my opinion, Bandai, I would say you either hit the Dober X or the Cerberus X respectively, as it is what allows them to have such amazing memory efficient plays, or make any top end that's purple have an unconditional unsuspend. I mean, if you compare Cerberus X to something like BT6 Savior Huckmon, BT6 Savior Huckmon was hit for literally less, whereas something like the Cerberus X is completely generic. Hopefully they'll hit it in the future. And now for an actual hit to something like Blue-Green Imperial, I would have hit Return to the Primogenitor. You see, in BT16, Imperialdramon was still a very strong deck, and I can admit that at some points, for at least some matchups, it can be seen as rather oppressive. It does still go without saying that it had some very inherent weaknesses. For example, Partition, which is the main reason of why Imperialdramon is so strong, doesn't actually trigger if it dies by battle, which was already a risk considering that the Imperialdramon Fighter Mode Ace exists. But then when something like Primogenitor is out, even if you tried to delete by battle, he can then Digivolve up to save himself. Meaning that if you were swinging into something like the BT16 Imperialdramon with even more DP than the Fighter Mode Ace, the Primogenitor can simply protect him, and then he'll Digivolve into a Fighter Mode Ace to bottom deck something else anyways. And just when you thought this card couldn't get any more broken, it acts as copies 5 through 8 of Davis and Ken, which we all agree is the heart and soul of the deck. Its main effect even acts as a mini HPD. This card practically reads like a full-on custom card. If you want to hit Blue-Green Imperial properly, Bandai, this is what I would hit. And last but certainly not least, the elephant in the room. I think it goes without saying that there was nothing in this list that hits the new current Imperial deck that's kind of the top dog right now, that being Red-Purple Imperial. And to that I say, I kind of understand that they were a little bit hesitant on wanting to hit it considering it is brand new, and if I'm being completely honest, the deck was practically garbage until the latest set of BT20. But if you wanted to bring down its power level even just a smidge, I think the correct hit to actually hurt it would be the BT16 Wormmon. The BT16 Wormmon being able to Digivolve from trash at the start of main phase or on play essentially means that as soon as you see one BT16 Wormmon in trash, you'll be able to do the full combo with just Digivolving any Digimon into the promo Shagemon, which is already strong by itself, and I'm okay if it's at 1 and that means it's less consistent, but also if it's at multiple copies, by having one BT16 Wormmon in trash and then one BT16 Wormmon in hand or in racing area, that essentially means that from 0 memory, they can do full combo. Which almost feels like Taka Megazushi's version 2, but instead of killing you the turn he comes out, he'll wipe out nearly all your security while floodgating your ass. Still pretty annoying, I must say. I can still live with Red Purple Imperial being one of the best decks in the format. I just hope they hit BT16 Wormmon at some point in the future. And those were the extra things that I also wish was hit in this ban list. Do let me know in the comments down below that what you guys think should also be on this ban list. Overall, my general rating of the March 15 ban list is a 7 out of 10. So, rather solid. Everything that is on this ban list, or at least in my opinion, is at the very least warranted. I only wish it were a little bigger. Although I do have to say that the amount of overtuned decks from prior formats have definitely shrunk by a lot. And honestly, maybe that's enough. Now, do I think it's enough? Honestly, I'm not too sure, but at the very least, I sure hope so, and I definitely know that this will change the meta, at least in some way, shape, or form. Time will tell, in the coming formats. Let me know in the comments down below on your personal thoughts of the ban list. Either or, I probably should still say, thank you Daddy Bandai for this ban list. I know for a fact that it was a big one, and it was at the very least a very strong effort. I very much look forward to seeing and reacting to your future ban lists. And personally, I do hope that they come a little bit more frequently this year. I mean, everyone loves it when the meta shakes up every now and then. Alright, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye everybody.